Hey, welcome to another exciting episode of the Crotchety Old Men Podcast. I'm Gary Smith, one of the co-hosts, and I'm as happy as I can be. I got my main man in here, George Crumley, and we about to rock and roll today, George. What's going on, big fella?
Hey man, you couldn't say it any better. Everything's good, ready to go, ready to talk about this retirement subject. And hey man, as you know, as we've said before, we're gonna make it good, make it special.
Amen to that. Life is a beach if you do it right.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So retirement, more people seem like, man, put more time in planning a party than they really do to planning their retirement. I know we all chop it up here on the crotchety old men when we're not before everybody, and just talking about the pros, the cons, the fun you can have, and although we don't haven't experienced it personally per se, the cons of retirement. All right, and just want to kick this thing off today in talking about it. I mean, certainly you want to sit down with your financial advisors or fiduciaries, whoever that you rely on for information regarding your finances. But hey, at the end of the day, once you got that all in place and you know how much money you got to work with and so on and so forth, what do you do with that time?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question, Smitty. And retirement looks different from for individuals. Just like retirement for you looks different than me, and then different for PC.
Mhm.
So you have to look and see what fits you best. I consider myself. I don't know how different, but consider myself fortunate. But I set an early goal in life. I wanted to actually retire when I was 35.
Mhm.
So it obviously didn't happen, but everything that I did around that still drove me towards that goal. So when I got to retirement, it was still, up to me to make that call and say, yeah, I'm ready.
Mhm.
If they got any more packages coming up, yeah, I'd be ready to take one because I was ready and financially I was ready. So I guess the moral of that story is you've got to prepare. It's not just going to happen. You got to start preparing early, and you don't. And preparing doesn't mean you got to sock away all your money, but you
Right.
want to sock away a consistent amount on a regular basis. Because what they say, time is wasted on the young. Well,
Mhm.
that's what it means. You have time on your side when you're young. So even if you just save $100 a month, here again, do the math. 12 months a year, that's what $1,200 times what you're gonna work for 30 years. Do the math. So it's that kind of way you attack things. Obviously, if you have more money, you can sock away more. But and if you have less, if you do $50 a month, but the whole thing is getting started at an early age, putting money away that you're not going to touch, and it's going to let it build, whether it's in the stock market or 401k or Roth or anything like that. It's going to grow because time is on your side. So,
That's
but
right.
that's what you have to do to prepare yourself.
That's right. That's right, George. We've all heard of the term dollar cost averaging. So over that period of time, you got time on your side. So use the time wisely because, investing in almost anything has its volatility and some things are more cyclical than others. So you're able to mitigate those disparities by doing what we call dollar cost averaging. All right. And so, but you got to have something, and George and I was talking about this earlier before we came on the air, is being disciplined. I mean, that's one of the biggest misnomers, man, about people, even from investing to selling, I mean, savings to just about everything in life. Be disciplined. Pay yourself first. I'm really talking to our younger people out here. Get in the habit of paying yourself first. Get in the habit of putting that $50, $100, whatever that amount might be, every paycheck. Every time you get paid, put something aside and don't just put it in your wallet. Put it in somewhere where you can invest it and make that money make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, experts say that in retirement, you probably need to generate between 70 and 90% of your current working income.
Mhm.
And that might be good for a rule of thumb. But I'll caution you, one of the things that I've learned in retirement is taxes and insurance really gets you. Taxes will get you because you lose a lot of control over that unless you have a lot of write-offs, and then some of those aren't really as helpful. And then medical insurance. I mean, even though you have Medicaid and you have supplementals, or you can go with one of the other Advantage programs, it still can be very costly. So though, and sometimes those expenses you can't project. All of a sudden this company just basically said we're going to go up, in your rate. So here again, as a rule of thumb, think about anywhere between 70 and 90% of whatever you're making a day is probably what you're going to need in retirement.
Right, absolutely. And I highly encourage people to work with an insurance advisor or financial advisor, someone that's knowledgeable, obviously, in doing and practicing what they preach, I would say, because you can start off on the wrong foot and end up wasting a lot of time and dollars and not reach your goal because you started off wrong or you were investing wrong. So you want to start off, and obviously, you can go. Anybody that has listened to the Crotchety Old Men podcast for the last several years know that we are very, very pro insurance, meaning that, your insurance policy is your foundation. Your foundation if you don't make it to retirement. Your foundation if for so whatever unfortunate incidents that may occur in life, whether it be accidents or what have you, sickness or what have you, that you protect your insurability. All right, get as much insurance as you can afford. Okay, so that you have that foundation that in the unlikely event, I mean, most insurance policies have an accidental clause to it. All right, so if something happens to you, that's already taken care of. It. Your premiums are paid for life. And if you're in a position, depending upon your occupation, make sure you got some type of insurance that's going to protect your earning power. All right, because there's no guarantee that just because you're 20, you're going to make it for 45 years to 65 or whatever. Okay. And so keep that in
Oh yeah, I
mind.
mean you're absolutely right. One of the things that people miss, I mean, Aflac, which is one of the duck quacking across, people miss that. But I took out an Aflac policy a long time ago. It may have cost me $20 a month, but it was two prong. It was one, a disability policy, and then it was a cancer policy. But that's here again, $20 a month well spent.
That's
Because
right.
if you look at how things go in this life, cancer is real prevalent in a lot of people. So it's something that you can prepare for. Something you can prepare for. And not just something that will catch you blind.
Right.
But also, you, I'm really, it's really important that you use a professional,
Yeah.
because it's like you go to get your hair cut, it's a professional. You go to get your car worked on, it's a professional. It's the same thing with your finances. You
Mhm.
need to find a professional, a fiduciary, somebody who's going to look at your best interest, and you find them the same way you find anybody else. You don't go to the first one. You come out, you find the first one, you check him out, the second one, the third one, until you find somebody you're comfortable with. But we can't just hide our money under a pillow and hopefully the good things are going to happen. Get to a professional, somebody that's gone to school for this, somebody that does this on a daily basis and can give you the insight on, where you should put your money, how you should spend your money, and how how it's going to help you in retirement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, going back to being disciplined and being consistent. I know something else George and I we talked kind of chopped it up about is what's your why? Okay. So
Yeah.
many people we go running off at fantasies and fads or what have you, and we get tricked or trapped in some situation. I think about people who have timeshares and probably didn't ask that question. What's my why of doing a timeshare? The emotional thing is that hey man, we can go to Hawaii or we can go to Florida in the wintertime and we can go whenever we want. But long term, after so much time goes by, now you want to get out of the thing and you're trapped. Okay, and you got to spend thousands of dollars to get out of it because you didn't really dive into what your real why was.
Hmm.
So why? Why are you talking about retirement? Because I think George just said it very succinctly early on in the podcast. Your reason for retiring is going to look far different than somebody else's.
Hmm.
Um, Personally, retirement is not a word I typically use because I'm having so much fun now doing what I love to do, and that's about business and helping other people's grow and stuff like that. So I probably never will actually retire. So what does that really look like for you though? Okay.
Hmm.
when that last day at your job is happening, you've talked with your financial fiduciary, what have you, and you know about you have X amount of dollars per month that you can live off of for the rest of your life. Well, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? All right. And sure, it's going to feel fine the first 30 days, but hey, if you're blessed and you're fortunate, depending upon what time, when you're retiring, because retirement is just a number, and that's a number based upon your finances, really. Because, like George said, hey, his goal was to retire at 35. All right. Now, he was at the time, he was probably physically able, but the finances perhaps weren't there that would have enabled him to live the lifestyle that he had created for himself up to that time, or a lifestyle that he envisioned to have after that time was not sufficient. So he kept working on that, but hey, he was able to retire well before 65. Okay. So
64.
here you go.
64.
But we're saying the same thing in that being consistent, knowing your why, what's your reason, and have an idea. Because if you don't, let's just say, if you don't have a plan not to fail, then you planning to fail. If you don't have a plan for your life, what am I going to do when I close the door, close this chapter in my life, and open up another chapter? What are you going to do in that next chapter?
You know, right, Smitty. I mean, and I'm sure you heard this one. You don't know what you don't know, and see,
Amen.
that's when I look at Social Security. That rings that bell because most people think I get to 62 or I get to 65 or I get to 67 or I can go to 70, and that's when I can take Social Security. But there's probably about 60 different formulas for Social Security, and you have to look at which one benefits you, and if you have a spouse, benefits your spouse. Those are so important. That's not just when I'm going to take it, but how I'm going to take it. Am I going to let my spouse take it first?
Mhm.
Then I'll take it. Whoever gets the most, then they'll get half of mine, and so they'll get an increase. But these are things that you have to look at. Here again, you've got to consult a professional to understand because once you sign on the dotted line, this is when I'll take my Social Security. All bets are off. You can't go back and try to regroup and say, "Oh, I want to do it this way." Because a friend of mine told me that he was going to wait till I think it was 70, and the key was at 70, if you take it on your birthday, you get an extra payment. I was like, wow, I never knew that. But yeah, he researched it, found it out. And, an extra payment is an extra couple $1,000s a month. So, those are kind of little things. Guess what? They don't tell you. So you have to research it for yourself. And like I said, a professional will bring you in on those kind of things. So it's very important to do your homework. Basically, do your homework.
And, on that note of Social Security, I'm of the mindset is that you don't want to use Social Security as your basic, your core source of I don't even call it security, although they call it Social Security. That it's not, because all the geopolitical things that's going on in this world today. You look at the cuts that they talk about making on Medicaid, tampering with Social Security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That should not be your sole source of revenue. And there's a lot of people who are relying on that Social Security to be that source. Okay, it shouldn't even be half, 50% of your total revenue. You just put your Social Security together with a pension or whatever you may have, or what you manage to put aside in a 401k. That's why it's important to become financially literate. And I can see why there are some people who they retire from working from one job only to go get another job. Okay, so you really didn't retire,
You didn't
because what
retire,
happens is
no.
that they found out that not doing the proper planning, all right, they find out that they didn't have enough money. That's usually the situation. Or George mentioned it earlier, the proper insurances in place were not there. And so they hadn't thought that thing all the way out. And so you can circumvent and certainly prevent those type of issues from happening, particularly those of you who have not retired, by getting with that professional, sitting down with your spouse or significant other, your family, whoever is important and stuff like that to you, and really knowing, voicing, and writing down your why. Because if you got that clarity on your why, the how will be revealed to you. But
And
you got it.
we're creatures of habit. So put yourself a retirement budget or plan together, income plan together. Get you a spreadsheet and write and jot down every bill that you have.
Mhm.
Everything that's going out, and then another one, put in everything that's coming in, and make sure that balances. Because, like you said, in retirement, it's going to be Social Security, it could be a pension, 401k. You got a Roth, and then you got cash on the side. So you got to figure out how you're going to split all this up. So you're not, going every month. This month I need 3,000. This month, next month I need seven. Month
Right.
after that, I need 13. So, that doesn't allow for longevity. You need to be in a situation where, just like when you're working, you're getting a paycheck every other week. You want your income to be the same way, whether it's one of those vehicles I just named, but you got those spaced out that they're coming in just like that. And then so you can calculate. You're not wondering every month, okay, so where's my money coming in? Where is it at? All you got to do is, hey, but I call it mailbox money. Probably heard that term in a while, right? Mailbox. All you got to do is wait. Well, it's not even mailbox anymore. It comes electronically. It comes to your computer. It says, "Oh, ding, there it is."
That's
And
right.
that way, you're not worried about how I'm going to do this, how I'm going to do that, because it's right there in front of you. It's no just like today. You take the guesswork out of it. If I do 40 hours, I know I'm going to get paid this. Well, you're same thing in retirement. I've already prepared for it. I've already basically calculated out. This is how I'm going to get. This is what I'm going to get.
That's right. That's right. Nothing like that swan money, sleep well at night money. Okay, the money's coming in regardless of what you do. And you have to prepare yourself for that. And you have to position yourself for that. You must run your financial life like businesses operate. That's the
Yeah.
formula. All right. You need to have that recurring revenue stream that comes in so it's predictable and dependable. And it's not volatile. It's like George says, coming in one month, another not month is something totally different. You got to get away from that as soon as you can. Next is managing your outflow. All right, you have your certain recurring bills, such as your water bill and your light bills, things of that nature. Hopefully, at some stage in your life, you get to the point where you no longer have a house note. You're going to always have property taxes, depending upon where you live and stuff. But those type of things are manageable. But if you got these discretionary expenses that are popping up, and then you get off outside of your why, that's what put a lot of people in trouble financially during their retirement. And now they're forced to go to work during a period in their lives when, hey, they may not be able to as much as possible, and then now the rest of your life is miserable. Yeah, you too tired, you got the time, but you don't have the health to enjoy life. So now you're just existing. And I pray for our people that, because there's too many out there like that, have not properly planned for that after, let's call it the after paycheck life. All right. Because now you're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. You got to know how to budget. All right. And if your budget, it does not allow for you to do these pop up type expenditures, okay, then you can put yourself in some grave situation and unnecessary stress.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so we've talked about the financial aspects of retirement, but just to touch upon it, consider the non-financial aspects here again, which is defining your retirement. What do I want to do in retirement? Hobbies, vacation, traveling, volunteering. Because time is so important, and one of the things that helps you in retirement is every morning you get up, you got something to look forward to. Yeah, you still have a social calendar. You get up on Tuesday, oh yeah, I'm going to volunteer today. Get up on Wednesday, yeah, I'm going to do meet with some buddies and we're going to do this. So having a social calendar is so important. Being able to get up every day, because here again, we're creatures of habit, and we're so in tune with what we did previously. Every morning, 8:30 to 5, we know where we're going to be. At the job. Well, it's the same thing in retirement. You don't want to get up in the morning, turn on the TV and sit there for the next 3 hours, grab the newspaper, sit there for the next 2 hours, grab a cup of coffee, sit there. Next thing you know, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you're still in your pajamas.
Yep.
That's not the way. That's not the way. That does not lean towards longevity in your lifetime. And that's the other thing. You gotta build some kind of physical activity. Getting that heart rate up. I'm gonna get up in the morning. I'm gonna run. I'm gonna ride my bike. I'm gonna, do something that's gonna be physically active and challenging to not only my body but also my mind, because we still have to function as individuals. Because if we don't, we just deteriorate. So those are just as important, if not more important, with about the financial, because hey, without your health, I don't care how much money you got in the bank,
Right.
it ain't worth it. Only thing,
Yeah.
somebody else can go to the bank and get it for you.
Yeah, you got to roll it over there too because you're buying pills and medicines and paying doctor bills and all kind of nonsense. Going back to your why, going back to being disciplined. Have a life. If you now that you got the time, have a life. If
Have a
you don't
life.
have a hobby, pick one. Okay, learn to play the guitar. Go do some yoga. This is so much things that you used to think about when you were at work. That man, if I had the time, I would be doing this, 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 this. Now you have the time and prayerfully most of you have the dime to do it with also. So on an afternoon, hey, go to the park, go to the zoo. There's so many things you can do. Go to the art museums and support our local art museums and and our artists and our musicians and stuff. Do fun things. Sure you can do the volunteering activities. Nothing wrong with that at all. Volunteer the things that you would like to do. Okay, be an usher at a movie theater. You watch free watch free movies and possibly eat some free popcorn. And you're gonna see a lot of people. Okay, so do fun stuff, but you got to make every day count. Every day count.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so important, and that's one of the things that you really uncover, once you are unleashed from that 9 to 5, is that there are so many free things that you can do
Oh,
that
baby.
basically just require your time, and then you just showing up. One of the luxuries that we have here in Atlanta is because the movie industry is here, which is really big. So I mean, you got some free time, you can go down there and sit on a studio, and for 8 to 12 hours, and watch them make a movie. But the key to that is you get paid too, as what they call an extra. Okay, so that's a here again can be rewarding because you get to meet additional people, you get to see how they make movies, and you get paid. So those are kind of things that you would not necessarily uncover if you're working 9 to 5, but they're out there, and they're looking for people to do that. You ever look at a movie and see all the people in the background walking through, you wonder, where they get these people from. Well, that's me and you. That's all it is. It's me and you. This is regular people. No training or anything like that. It's regular people. Volunteer. I volunteer at the school, as a community coach, and I coach every day, with the girls, and here again, it's so rewarding because I did play sports, but here again, giving back, and guess what? Get paid for that too. So there's a lot of things that you can do in your quote unquote in retirement life where it doesn't really feel like work. It feels like something you enjoy doing, something that's meaningful, and something that gives back to the community. Because here again, we got a lot of knowledge that we've gained. So what good is if we don't share it back?
Oh, absolutely. And while you were speaking, George, it made me think about tutorage. You have a tutor. All right. If you have a talent, whether or you was good in math or reading or just so many other things, repairing stuff. The list is endless. Don't bury your skill before they bury you. All right. Use your skills and experiences over the last 30, 40, 50 years that you've gained and the knowledge and wisdom that you have. So there's so many areas that we're still needed. And that's why retire, define it for yourself. I think that's probably the best thing before we close today is you have to define what retirement is for you. All right. Forget what Webster says and whoever else, the analysts and economists talk about what retirement is. Retirement, nobody says you have to wait to 65 or even 70, okay, to retire. Now, if you want to wait until that because somebody's going to give you something and that's on you, and I'm not being here suggested or negative about whatever. You want to wait to 70, get your Social Security, have at it. You want to go get it when it's 62, have at it. Pros and cons of each one of those philosophies. But the bottom line is that, as we said earlier, beyond the financial, it's your why, your why, your why. And I'm going to get ahead of my quote today, but if you're sitting there contemplating about retiring and you're about to make an emotional decision about retiring because you're tired of your boss or you're tired of doing what you're doing, and today you just feel emotionally drained about it, don't sign that paperwork today.
Think twice. Think twice.
Think twice.
Because you
So,
ain't ready.
you're not ready.
It could hurt. It could really hurt.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Don't do that. Okay. Go
Mhm.
home. Like they say, sleep it off.
Sleep it off.
Talk to somebody. Don't do that.
Just want to pass on this last piece of advice. And here again, it's just advice. But one of the things that I've learned, and if I had to do it all over again, I would put more of my 401k money in a Roth instead of just a traditional 401k. And the reason why is because you're paying the taxes now as opposed to when you retire. Because here again, taxes are going to be one of the biggest expenses that you have in retirement. And when when you go to that stock account, that stock that's been running and running, and now it's time to cash it in, guess what? Uncle Sam's going to want 10%. So whatever that number is, Uncle Sam's going to want 10%. But if you do it early on and get back to planning, get into that Roth. In fact, if I was young again, I wouldn't even put money into a traditional IRA. I would put it all into a Roth. And then hey, you eliminate one big expense when you retire.
That's right. Amen. Amen to that. All right, so George, I think we've hit the most salient points of retirement, and it's primarily retirement planning. Okay, we just wanted to extend it another level because more often than not, when the subject of retirement planning comes up, it's primarily geared around that financial piece. And certainly, a lot of your professionals, they're going to ask you those questions in the questionnaire. What do you like to do and things of that nature. And so you got to really dig down deep and think about that. I mean, vacationing and stuff. All right, you're not okay. You vacation now because you want one, not because you need one. When you was working, you needed a vacation. You needed that 2 weeks or 8 days, whatever they gave you. But now, heck, if you got enough money, you can go on a trip. Let's put it that way. I don't even call it a vacation for 30 days if you can afford to
Mhm.
stay away that long. It depends upon what your why is. If you ever wanted to go somewhere other than the nearest Lake Lanier or Belle Isle someday, or if you want to take a trip to Africa, or you wanted to go somewhere else and learn something, or go to Europe or wherever. Now you can make those type of decisions too, okay, and not have a time limit based upon when you got to be back to go to work. That's the freedom that retirement brings to you. The freedom of getting your time back. And when you get your time back, you get your life back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it just comes down to planning. Just like you planned for retirement, you plan while you're in retirement and
Yeah,
plan in those particular things. And
yeah,
it's a time to learn things that you may not have thought about doing before. You may want to go skydiving. You may want to take up golf, things that you've never had time to do before, and then find out you like these things. So yeah, it's so many different things about life that you can enjoy once you reach this plateau. But the key again is planning, being disciplined, seek professional advice.
So as we wrap up here, I am going to go ahead and give the same quote that I've kind of sprinkled in there anyway. It goes like this: whenever you make an emotional decision, you're bound to make the wrong decision. That's our quote
Yeah,
for today. All
that's
right.
in anything.
Amen. In anything,
In
right?
anything.
So as we like to say on the Crotchety Old Men podcast, if you didn't know,
If you didn't know,
now
now you know.
all right. Peace.
Take
God
care. Be
bless.
safe.
See you next time.